for over a week now, Brent, just trying to dissect every practice rep and every play of Cam Ward. Only a couple of those practices have been in pads. So I feel like we're handing the baton to you now to overanalyze the first couple days of practice from an ongoing quarterback competition in Knoxville, if you could.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, this is the old Eeyore in me, right? Like, you're 2 days in, no pads. We've seen about 10 periods of practice, a lot of routes versus air, not a lot of one-on-one type stuff. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. There's stacking days. I think all three quarterbacks have shown that they've got a solid command of things. Mentally, I think they've done a good job with the installs. That doesn't seem like they're confused or lost on where to go with the ball or what to do. And so I think it's been a solid start for all three. I mean, I think the first day of reckoning in that competition comes a week from tomorrow when Tennessee has their first scrimmage. And then it starts to sort itself out. Now they're doing 11-on-11 stuff that we don't get to see. But I don't think they feel discouraged about that position. I don't think anybody has run off and left anybody else. And I don't think anybody's got left behind through 2 days. So we'll see where we are this time next week heading into the scrimmage.
One thing that stuck out during SEC Media Days was for us when Miles Kitselman, the tight end, sat down with 3HL, Brent, and he talked about there not really being that voice on the sideline after, a third straight 3-and-out or whatever it might be. And he admitted, it should have been me, but that they didn't really have that on the offensive side last year. However this quarterback battle shakes out, do you feel, and maybe it's too early to tell, but do you feel that there's potential for that voice to be there with any one of these three guys?
Yeah, I think it's Miles Kitselman.
I think,
and to be honest with you, I think, look, if you, and Ramon, you know this, if you know who the guy is, and the guy has emerged and he's become the guy, it's much easier to be that vocal guy. It's hard to be the guy if the other 10 guys are going, okay, he's going to be this guy to me, and in next series we're going to play with a different quarterback because they're rotating because they don't know who they have, right? Like, at some point it's kind of the old Peyton Manning his freshman year in 94 where like, dude, just shut up and call the play. Like, you're not an established guy yet. Once you know who the guy is, I think it becomes much easier for someone to be more vocal. I do think that Joey probably has more of that to him naturally just because he's played and he's been in those situations. So I think if he's the guy, then I think there's a chance that the quarterback can become a little bit more of an alpha early or earlier. With the other two, George has been on campus since January. Now, George has the respect of his teammates, but is he ready to just ascend and take the role that he's in total command and everything's with him with an iron fist? Same with Jake Merklinger. But the interesting thing about his offense is when you take Miles Kitselman out of the equation, there is no veteran vocal guy because there's no veteran guy left. Lance Hurd is second-year starter. Basically, the rest of the offensive line is brand new. Deshaun Bishop, who I dearly love, I think he's a terrific kid, and I think he's going to have a really good year. I don't think it's a natural instinct for him to be a leader. And then in the receiver room, nearly 60% of the guys in that room have never put on a uniform for a college game before. So you're so young, you really need Kitselman early to be really, really strong vocally with the entire offense until he gets a running mate with the quarterback position.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's with us on 104.5 The Zone.
You bring that up as far as the wide receivers room. Chris Brazel's out right now too, and Lucas and I were talking a little bit on break. That is something that's got to, I guess, be sped up this preseason, the amount of reps that these guys get and who's taking them, the guys that have a little bit of playing time, man, like a Chris Brazel. Lucas, what's the number? They're very low on live reps right now.
Brent, of the guys that are practicing out there at that position, is it less than 10 career catches?
Yeah, I would think so. And would Braylon Staley finish? Maybe it's more like less than 15. I think Staley ended up with 4 last year. Mike Matthews had probably 10-ish, somewhere in there. So you're probably less than 20, I would say for sure, but maybe less than 15. It's it is a very young group. I don't think that Tennessee did a good job rotating those young guys in. I mean, Ramon, how many Fridays on game weeks last fall did we ask the question, or did you ask the question, is this the week we're going to see Mike Matthews? Is this Mike Matthews week? Is this Mike Matthews week? And it really wasn't Mike Matthews week until it was a mop-up duty or it was some injuries late in the year. We saw him against Vanderbilt. We saw him some in the playoff game, obviously. Same for Braylon Staley because guys were beat up. Guys had gone into the portal. But they really didn't integrate those guys early in the year, and because of that, they're relatively inexperienced, and they're getting every rep their body can take. And the challenge is how much can their body take? Because here's what you can't do. I mean, Chris Brazel's out; he should be back next week. Without Brazel, you're down to 6 scholarship wide receivers. Don't pull a hammy. Don't have anybody come up with a hamstring. So you got to be careful about how much you're just running them to death. And I think the wide receiver position is not the reason for this, but I think when you look at the sports science of it all, Tennessee's basically going 2 on, 1 off throughout fall camp. So they're off today. They'll practice Saturday, Sunday. They're off Monday. They go Tuesday, Wednesday, off Thursday. And so those off days are physical off days. They're not mental off days, but physically they're not out running around on the practice field because I think you got to be careful about the old soft tissue muscle pulls, particularly with the wide receiver group right now.
No doubt about it. On the guys protecting up front, man, the storyline that everybody couldn't wait to say that David Sanders Jr. has gained over about 30 pounds, him and Deshaun Brame. What do those guys look like, Hubs, from the time you saw them to now, especially a big guy like David Sanders, man, that penciled in to be the right tackle starter?
Well, when you see David Sanders, your eyes are gonna get big and you're gonna smile, Ramon, as a former Tennessee offensive lineman, because you're like, yep, that's what it's supposed to look like right there. I mean, maybe 10 more pounds at some point in his career, play closer to 315 than 305. But the original goal for David Sanders was to get to 290. That's where he was trying to get to, and he blew right past 290 at 305 right now. It'll fluctuate, obviously, during fall camp, but he looks terrific physically. I mean, he's – and it was interesting in talking to him yesterday, not just what he said, but kind of how he said it and his demeanor about it. A different feel from him because yesterday in one-on-ones, even though they weren't pads, they did pass rush one-on-ones, he did not feel like he got run over or shoved around or thrown around. In the springtime, one, it was some technique of learning right side versus left side because your footwork's different, so that was part of it. Two, just physically from a strength and weight standpoint, it was easy for a strong side defensive end to toss him and to move him around. Dominic Bailey and those veteran guys were moving him around, and he felt like he could sit down and kind of squat on it yesterday and not get moved or driven back or kind of tossed around. And boy, it had given him a lot of confidence when he came into the media room yesterday. The other confidence he has, Ramon, we talked about this in the spring. What David did the back half of spring is he turned his Sunday off day into what I call extra credit day. He would go to the complex, and during spring practice, he would get with a QC or a grad assistant or someone. They would watch film, go over the installs from the previous week, get a jump start on the new installs that were coming in, and then they would go out and walk through it. And he would spend anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half on his own just refreshing and relearning and getting a jump start. And that worked really well for him the back half of spring. So as he told me yesterday, if it's working well, why stop doing it? So all summer long, he still went in on Sundays. And instead of an hour and a half, it became more 45 minutes to an hour. And he really just continued to dive into the playbook and the technique to get himself more comfortable and more confident. And I think you could hear that in his voice yesterday when he met with the media.
Phenomenal, man. The ones that want to be great, they do that stuff that's time-consuming so that they can live like kings later, man. Good on him for figuring that type of stuff out. The other side of things, man, because he's back in the building, I don't think we've talked to anybody in Knoxville after Hypo spoke about Boo Carter, man. It seems to me a lot of community service, a lot of acclamation. He seems to be working solo by himself on the indoor. What does that look like for him, Hubs? And have you guys have the ability to have him speak? I doubt he's going to speak anytime soon.
No, I don't know that we'll see him or hear him speak to the media all year if he's back on this team. I think with Boo right now, it's about stacking days, Ramon. It's 2 good days, that's great. What's he doing today? His off day is going to look different than the rest of the guys' off days, I'm sure. I mean, he's got to continue to put day in and day out and stack it on top of each other to work his way back. This is not all right, you did this for a week, you're good to go. He is still working to earn the trust of his teammates back. Now, he stood up in front of the team on Tuesday in the meeting and spoke to them and apologized and, kind of spoke about sort of, I guess, the last month. I don't think he went into great detail, but he did apologize to the team. And, I think that some in the team are probably pretty quick to forgive, and some others are like, you know what, I gotta see it, man. I gotta see the results. You say you're going to do this, you got to go out and do it. And I think Josh Heupel understands that. I think the Leadership Council has made that very clear. And so that's why Josh Heupel's not putting any kind of timetable on this. And it's about, did he do what he was supposed to do yesterday? And is he doing everything he's supposed to do today? You better be on time. You better not roll in late for a conditioning work, right? You better not roll in late for a community service. You better not roll in late for any meeting. It's all the little things that he has to do, and you're trying to change habits, and you don't change habits in 2 days. This is going to be days he has to stack. So we'll see. I mean, Josh Heupel will meet the media again probably next Saturday night. We'll get an update there on kind of how that's progressing, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be a quick return, or 3 or 4 days, hey, you punished, and here you go back. It doesn't feel like it's going to be like that, Ramon.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest with us. Only a few days already gone of Tennessee fall camp. No pads on quite yet. As another battle that's kind of taking place there, Brent, is obviously at the running back spot. For you, what do you believe is more likely in 2025? That one of these guys earns their way up to being the lead horse the way it's been for the last couple of years, or that it goes back to being more of a by-committee approach the way it was in the first 2 years of the Heupel era?
I think it's more by committee. I don't think that's – sometimes when you have by committee, that means you don't have a guy. I don't think that's the case. I think they feel like they have 2 guys right now that they have complete trust in, and both those guys have earned the right to take as many carries as possible. And that's Deshaun Bishop and that's Peyton Lewis. I think they like where both those guys are. Star Thomas is the X factor, the transfer in from Duke. How much does he factor in? And then the other X factor on that is Darrell Sims. Is Sims going to be a 2-back guy or a 3-back guy? Now, Sims tells me, and throughout his career, he's played as many as 1 and all the way to 4. I don't know how you play 4 in a game. I think that's a little unrealistic. So are you going to play 2 or 3, regularly? I think that's going to be the interesting thing. I'll tell you who I would not bet against, and I'm not betting against Deshaun Bishop. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. I think he's driven. I think he's motivated. I think he knows this is his opportunity. He looks like $1 million. I think his focus is where it needs to be. He's going to be 1A or 1B, and then I think Peyton Lewis figured out the back half of spring, I better get going and finish strong. I think those 2 guys are trying to take the lead run in that room, and we'll see what happens with Star Thomas, and then do they have a package or have any role for DeJuan Morris, or is he going to be more special teams, potential return guy? How does that look like for him? Right now it feels like it's Bishop and Lewis is kind of a 1-2 punch, and I think they'll play that way to start the year.
455 rushing yards last year for Bishop, the lead returning rusher on this team. Some recruiting momentum continued this week, Brent, with the commitments of Salesi Moa, the 4-star athlete out of Utah. And right here in our backyard, Joel Wyatt of Oakland transferred there this offseason, a 4-star athlete. How do you see both of these guys deployed at Tennessee, and what does it mean just for the momentum of this 2026 class?
Well, I think it's important for momentum, but I think it's also more important because you got guys that you wanted and that you targeted. Joel White's a guy Tennessee wanted for the longest time. A lot of people look at his frame and think he's going to be an outside rush guy at some point in time. He wants to play in the back end. He went to the Rivals 5-star challenge and excelled in the back end against quality competition. And Tennessee's made it very clear to him that he's going to start in the back end of the defense. And we'll see. We'll see what happens with his body. Is he a 30-pound gainer in the offseason, or is he a guy that it doesn't go that way? We'll see. Good athlete, can play in space, long, got good range. Even if he moves closer to the line of scrimmage, I think you could see him do some different things in terms of drop coverage and stuff like that. I don't think his entire career is going to be pin your ears back and sprint towards the quarterback. I think you can use him in a variety of ways. Big get for Tennessee, certainly a priority. Tennessee's been the favorite there. They just, it took a while. And Joel really went through the process and looked at a lot of things. And, again, that's one Tennessee targeted early, had to get, and they got that one done. And then with Moa, I mean, how many times you can go just outside Salt Lake City and get a guy whose dad played at Utah, right? I mean, that's not – tip of the cap to Kelsey Pope. I mean, I know we got rev share and I know we got some NIL stuff there, but, I mean, this is not a straight-up just, outbid everybody type deal or anything like that. This is about the relationship that Kelsey Pope built with Moa and his family. Moa wanted to play in the SEC. He wanted to play against the best competition. He wanted to prove himself. He thinks he's got a chance to be an NFL player. He wanted to come and play against the elite. I think a lot of SEC schools heard that, but probably didn't think they could really get that deep in it. And Kelsey Pope just believed, hey, we get him on campus, we got a chance. Let's keep swinging here. And he's the guy who led the charge on that particularly early. Like, guys, this is real. I mean, I'm promising you, there's something there. This is real. And it kept building and it kept building and it kept building to the point that Moa commits to Tennessee yesterday. And we all felt like Tennessee was in it because he had all summer to commit to Utah after he visited Utah and hadn't made that move. So you felt like, okay, Tennessee's a real threat here. But would he ultimately spur a legacy and leave home and go that far? And he did. SEC, Tennessee, Kelsey Pope, hats off to Pope for selling all of that and getting it done. They did a great job with him on his official visit, making him comfortable here and making the family comfortable here. That's a big win for Tennessee. Really good player. Now Tennessee's focused on a couple of 5-stars in the month of August to see if they can close it out with Savion Hyder, the tailback, and a running back, Tristan Keith. We'll see if they can get those done. But Tennessee's on a pretty good heater right now. It's been a nice July for Tennessee on the recruiting front, that's for sure.
I was very skeptical on Celeste Moa because of the Polynesian tie, considering how the spring went with Nico, and it seemed to have a big conversation around it. I just didn't know if, based upon the connections and how everybody's interconnected these days social media-wise, if there was something that was ever said about the Vols and Polynesians in Tennessee. Not that it had to, but that's a tight community, and I'm glad to see they're able to still recruit that area and that side of the country too, because, I mean, that's a lot of talent out there too, Hubs.
Well, there is, but it takes a special deal to win those. I mean, you got to understand really how to recruit those families, and there's such a tight knit bond with those families that there a lot of people in the family have a say. I mean, I remember when Tennessee was recruiting JT Mapu from Hawaii, and that was kind of my first coverage of that culture. And Steve Caldwell went over there for a dinner, and there's 55 people at the dinner. I mean, it's not a dinner. It's like a gathering, a reunion, and he had to sell Tennessee to all 55 people because all 55 people, their opinion was going to be heard when they had a family meeting about where JT was going. So it's a different type of recruitment. You have to understand that when you recruit into that culture, particularly when you're trying to get them out or you're battling against a school that's very ingrained in that culture like Utah is. And man, like I said, I can't give Kelsey Pope enough credit for just the way he swung and battled in that deal for months and months there to ultimately end up landing his commitment, and then obviously his signature will come in December.
Real two quick ones for me, but because you bring up Kelsey Pope, it was, of course, you hear the rumblings of can he recruit? What was his? This is huge for him, and also him being able to, if he can flip Tristan Keys, that changes the outlook on him being a young recruiter. You think also?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think it's you're learning, you're growing, you're adapting, and yeah, I mean, I think that if they could pull Key, you look at where they are with Legend Bay, you look at where they are with Moa, you look at where they are with Tyreek King from here in Knoxville. I mean, that's a really good receiver haul talent-wise for this class. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's a big win for Kelsey Pope. And I think I think it sends a message to the fans out there that this guy can recruit. And we'll see if he can finish off what would be arguably one of the best wide receiver classes in the country, if not the best wide receiver class in the country, if you were able to flip Tristan Keys from LSU.
That's huge. And you also, if you guys aren't subscribed to VolQuest's On 3 and look at Brent Hubb's War Room on Fridays, you're not living right is what I want to say, because you snuck something in, Hubbs.
No, I would never do such a thing, Ramon. What did I do?
One-liner is what you did. 2 sentences is what it was. You expect a formal announcement on this Adidas in the next week or so from what you say your sources are telling you.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're at the finish line, and I think that it's just a matter of a couple of language things in the contract, a couple of cleanup things there, and I think that deal's going to get done. We all thought it would be done sometime in July, but I think that Tennessee is obviously doing their due diligence on this and making sure some things are worded the way they want and everything is understood and the commitment that's going to be made there. So, yeah, I mean, I anticipate that coming as early as next week. If it's not next week, I'll be shocked if we don't have a deal in place and formally announced in 2 weeks. But I do think there's a chance that could come late next week for sure.
How big is this deal, though? I know leaving Nike's one thing. Adidas is bringing up, it looked like not a Brinks truck, but it seems to be an 18-wheeler full.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I haven't seen the contract. Now, I know the rumors of all those things out there and you know, like they're going to just drop, you know, just this crazy amount of cash. But how's that going to be structured? Is there a level of play with them in rev share and NIL? How's that worded? I mean, I don't know that it's going to be a situation where it's just this one large, huge check that drops everybody's jaw. But I think when you dive into this thing, you're going to see that the level of commitment from Adidas was certainly higher than Tennessee was ever going to get out of Nike. Remember this about Nike, too. Nike's in a transition. They got new leadership at the top, and Nike's trying to figure out kind of what is their future, what direction do they want to go. Are they going to stay in the college sports world? With some blue bloods, I'm sure that they will. But are they going to be heavy in that world? Are they going to be more in the pro athlete? Are they going to focus more on basketball? Nike's kind of been all over the place, right? They've been a grassroots company with a lot of youth stuff. They're not doing as much high school things now. You know, it was a big deal at your high school was a Nike school. They're not doing as much as those things as they were doing in the past. So where do they go? Where does Adidas go? When Tennessee made this move 10 years ago from Adidas to Nike, the brand of Nike was really important to Tennessee, the administration, and the coaches at that point. Tennessee actually took less money 10 years ago to go to Nike than Adidas was offering. They just walked away from Adidas because they felt like the Nike brand in recruiting, the coaches felt like they needed that, and it was a big help for them in recruiting. In this day and age of rev share and NIL, I don't know that that's as big of a deal. For example, I mean, Tristan Keys, who's the #1 wide receiver in the country, he's an Adidas athlete. You have some pro guys who are rocking Adidas. So I think
Hunter.
I think Adidas's play is kind of getting back into it with their new leadership. And, you know, I think their direction's a little more defined than Nike's direction is right now because of the new leadership at Nike. That doesn't mean Nike's bad. I'm not saying that. Nike's in an interesting spot because there are several schools around the country over the next couple of years that are coming due in terms of renewals. Are they going to go that direction, or are they going to go more individual athlete on the pro side direction and try to keep just a handful of blue bloods, the Texas, the Alabamas, you know, Michigan, Ohio State? I mean, to get Tennessee into that category, it was going to cost Nike so much money. I don't think they really wanted to go that way. And Adidas wants a blue blood, and they view Tennessee very, very highly in terms of what Tennessee can do for their brand. And I think that's kind of why we're where we are right now, what this thing looks like moving forward.
There you go.
It's a great
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest. A lot to break down off of that, and we'll react to it coming up next. Brent, thank you so much for
Thanks,
the time.
Hubbs.
Great catching up.
I appreciate it, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. At Brent_Hubbs, like Ramon said, VolQuest.com. Everything you need covering the Vols is there. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll react to that. The switch to Adidas, the Boo Carter, way back to this football team. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in.